Warning, the following broadcast is offensive, marginally funny, and contains no educational value whatsoever. It is intended for immature audiences only.
Welcome to another edition of That Riot Show. This is your host, Big Fat John.
And Judo, Larry M.
You ever see a steam pipe when too much pressure builds up in a boiler or something? What happens?
Are you saying that's a pipe over there?
Yeah, that blows off steam. Relief valve. The relief valve. Phil's an engineer. He understands. Has a relief valve. Why do you think God gave you a dick? It's to avoid stress, man. He needs a blowjob, but not just any old blowjob.
Isn't that funny? Women cause stress, and then they can relieve it.
There you go.
This is fucked up. Now, work up all your science very quickly. We're going to give you two in a second. Then work it up. Chlamydia.
Yep.
Okay. 1 in 15. They had an abstinence policy, but 1 in 15 chlamydia.
Yep.
Go.
I'll tell you exactly what it is from a scientific standpoint. I'd be happy to. You know what it is? You can't stop teenagers from fucking.
This is fucked up.
I know I'm getting old. This very week, I've sat on my balls twice.
This is fucked up.
Unfortunately, on this visual medium, you have to put up with this. Look at this. See? Larry, feel that.
No.
Oh, you're gay.
This is fucked up.
Hey, Phil, what kind of time we got left? I can't see it from here. What you got? 10 minutes? Lucky for you folks, there's 10. Whoa, what did you have for dinner? Jesus Christ, that belch.
Jesus Christ.
Oh. Smells like a Mexican's ass. Whoa, what the hell's going on? Oh.
This is fucked up.
All right, welcome once again to the Riot. This is your host, Big John.
And Larry.
Just Larry.
Just Larry.
Pay no mind to the Chiron beneath him right now.
That's right. I'm like Cher now. I have
Just one name.
One stupid name.
Are you as cunty as Cher?
You know it. That's why I'm totally enabled.
By the way, you can actually check this out. Cher has banned the Riot on Twitter. No, I'm serious. I cannot look at Cher's tweets. It officially tells me that I am blocked.
You're blocked?
Yeah. So, I don't remember ever saying anything.
Here's your gypsy.
Yeah. But I don't remember saying anything to her.
You didn't, oh come on, you've had wars with
just about everybody.
Well, let's see, Fogelsang, Pete Dominic, you have a list of left-wing idiots who can't argue with you.
It's just that I've never given her any thought, so I don't know why. I mean, the only thing I can think of is if someone tweeted, like one of her other friends retweeted us saying, look at these assholes or something, like Alyssa Milano. I'm constantly ranting on that bitch. Her cuteness from, what was that show?
Who's the Boss?
Who's the Boss? Officially done with.
Yeah.
She's old now.
Yeah,
What is she, in her 40s?
Yeah, she's late 40s.
When pussy hits 30, too old, Larry.
Yeah, they all of them though. She was on Charmed too.
Oh, yeah.
They all look pretty
That's just, women, keep this in mind. If you're going to maximize the value of your pussy, 30 and below. Until you get to the statutory level. So let's clarify, Larry. Below 30.
Okay.
Above 18.
Above 18, right.
That is prime deliciousness.
That's actually
That's right there.
She was hot back in the day.
That's what I'm saying.
But she also took some flack this week because after haunting Kavanaugh and showing up at the Supreme Court, the test, everything. Yes. She was there. She had to make a million comments.
Right.
Now Joe Biden's in trouble for massaging and rubbing, and she goes, "Well, we have to believe women, but we'll give them the benefit of the doubt." Really? How come Kavanaugh doesn't get the benefit of the doubt?
Because he's a white male.
That's right. Yeah, I guess.
All right, you know what I'm going to do right now? I'm going to ask our main man, Filipino Phil. Phil, do me a favor. Hit the old Scrollo podcast. We forgot to do it last week. We need to do it again. Scrollo podcast. That's where you can definitely find every episode of The Riot. Go check it out. Anywhere podcasts can be gotten, go get The Riot. That's Google Play, iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, all of them. Anywhere you can find a podcast.
I actually remember all that.
Yeah. We're also on YouTube, so just take it from the Scrollo podcast. You can always replay it to figure out where it is if you're just watching this on YouTube. Larry, a lot of people like to listen to The Riot on their way to and from home. When you're driving on the bus, you just get it on your phone, your favorite podcast app, and you're good to go. And
if those don't work for you, please go on Twitter and argue with this person right here, who will answer every stupid comment you have to make, or every smart comment.
And then some, yeah. No, go to our Twitter. We love if you follow us on Twitter. That would just be @ThatRiotShow. And basically any social media, just search for That Riot Show, no spaces. You'll find us, Facebook. But Twitter is the main one. You'll find me there almost 24/7. Larry, for some odd reason, eschews Twitter.
Yes, social media is beneath me.
By beneath him, he means he takes a shit on it.
Yes, but with the code language for, I go out a lot. So I don't dick around on my computer too much. So I actually...
Unlike Big John, Judo Larry here actually goes out and gets laid on occasion.
On occasion.
Yeah, I'm married. I never get laid.
Yeah, every Haley's comment, I get some action. But I'm not a big social media guru, but
that's okay.
John is waiting for you. So anything you want to argue from libertarian politics, or you want to hear about why all the Democrats running now are assholes?
Yeah. Or why the Giants shouldn't take a quarterback in the first round. Hit me up. It's okay. We'll talk about anything on Twitter and here. So Larry, got all that pimping out of the way?
Yeah, let's do it.
So let's move on to this week's show, and let's. We said we're not going to focus on Trump. It doesn't mean we're not going to talk about him, especially when circumstances dictate. So Larry, back when he was running for president,
right.
2016 and 2015. Trump famously never released his tax returns, never made them available. Now,
very unusual.
Very unusual. I think every president since Nixon every candidate even since Nixon for the White House has released their tax return. Now, Larry, the interesting thing there is that I always thought it had become law somehow that candidates release their tax returns, but it's not law.
No.
It's always been a voluntary action.
Right.
And quite honestly, it's something that...
It's just pro forma.
It's
just a rule of thumb now. You have to release it. Everybody wants to see what stocks, what bonds, what you've been profiting and doing. They want to see all the ins and outs of your finances for any irregularities.
Well, and quite honestly, it's just people have to know, especially the oversight committees in Congress, where the president's getting his cash from, and is there any foreign influences? Is there any domestic influences? Does he owe favors to anybody because he has a financial relationship? He or she has a financial relationship.
It's the Martha Stewart thing.
Yeah.
Like she got caught dumping a stock right before it plummeted, and she made some money instead of getting killed by it. Now, it wouldn't have hurt her financially if she had just taken the hit, but she got caught, and this is what they, it's the whole transparency.
So what's interesting is Trump, of course, being Trump, never did, famously. He always claimed that he was being audited. By the way, this magical audit that he claims he's under has been going on for the last 12, 15 years, apparently. Yeah. But anyway, so he never, and ironically enough, because his base of supporters are, rubes, they didn't give a shit that he never released his tax returns.
Yeah, they got to break out the toast.
Right. Yeah, and I have an interesting story about that too. But anyway, so, but what's interesting now is that now that Democrats have taken over the House, and they said this as part of their midterm push, Larry, we will have subpoena power now. And honestly, that's what's interesting about them. They're not going to pass many laws because the Senate is still in rube hands. But the Democrats want to at least have the ability to shine a light on Trump.
Yeah, Nadler's really pushing this local New York Democrat, and he wants to see his returns. I saw Trump earlier today. He said, "See my lawyers."
Right.
He goes, "They're very complicated." He always says that, and he repeated the audit comment. So now that the Democrats have this, they're going to go after him because, especially, that's coming now because the Mueller thing was such a dud.
Right.
So, or mostly a dud.
And they're saying that, and now, see, look, I think this is one game of constant assholery. Who can one-up the other in assholery, Larry? Yeah. So, for example, the Mueller report comes out. If there's nothing in there at all, and I know this is an old trope, but why not release the whole report? Why just have Barr give you that summary? I agree. Maybe there was no collusion. I'm not even saying there was. Why create doubt in people's minds by not releasing the full report.
By doing a 4-page summary that can't possibly have covered everything.
Right.
It only highlights the stuff that Trump wants out.
Yeah.
Guess what? Nothing to do with it. There's nothing to see here. Plus, he said he's going to put out the whole thing. He's just going to redact it a little bit for testimony to protect some people.
For confidential stuff.
Right. But even that, putting that off to further into April or whatever, it just makes people. I mean, people are already so cynical and suspicious.
Well, it gives the Democrats fodder. Not only is it bad ethically, in my opinion, it's just bad politically. Why are you giving them this sort of ammunition for 2020? But given that, now the Democratic leaders in the House want to subpoena his tax returns. And here's the thing. Apparently there's about 100-year-old anti-corruption law that says that the House can subpoena any taxpayer's return.
Really?
Yes.
I have to admit, I did not know that.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I don't like it.
Yeah, it goes back to the, what's it called, the Teapot Dome era or something like that.
Right.
But it was really meant to be able to look at, back in the day, the Rockefellers' tax returns and the J.P. Morgans and people like that, But apparently it's one of those arcane laws that can be drug out at any time just to fuck with someone. Now, here's where I think it's one assholery after the other. Trump should have released his returns, cut out the bullshit about he's under audit and all this other nonsense. He refused to do it during the campaign. He's refused to do it while he's been in office. So what did you expect Democrats to do? I don't blame them. I'm not even saying there's anything wrong with his tax returns. But why would anyone find this objectionable if you're a rube?
Yeah,
you've been fucking with them all this time.
Yeah, well, look, their loyalty to him is
most of them.
Excuse me, it's bordering on like really strange. Even the Obama people supporters didn't have this level of just dopiness. Like tax returns, who wants to see that?
Right.
Slept with a porn star, who wants to hear about that? Like, not really a billionaire. Who cares about that?
Well, actually, you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
That's the reason I think he doesn't want to release his tax returns, because then we'll find out he's nowhere near as wealthy as he's always claimed he is.
Right, he's going to be worth like $80 million.
Look, he's
not $1 billion.
He's wealthier than most. He's in the top 1%. We're not fronting on that. But he's always made the claims that he's billions, anywhere between 5 and 10 billion, depending on my mood. All that bullshit, right? When we say only, he might only be worth 700 million or 500 million. Now, to me, you and 99% of this country, that's fucking rich. Yeah. But to a born liar who for decades has been saying, I'm a billionaire.
Yeah, well, it's a vanity.
It's a vanity thing. And if you don't think that's a big deal for this asshole, keep in mind, the only reason he ran for president was to get PR for The Apprentice. Yeah. He never expected to win.
Yeah.
And now that he's won, he's trying to figure out how he's going to cash in already.
Yeah.
So anyway, to me, that's the real reason he doesn't want to give up his taxes. I don't think it's anything that you're going to find Russian collusion. I don't think you're going to find that someone's paying him off, Larry. Yeah. I think we're just going to find out he's not as smart a businessman as he likes to think he is.
Yeah, he's probably had a lot of losses along the way. He doesn't want people to know about bad moves, bad investments,
or that he doesn't
Trump states and Trump universities,
or that he doesn't give the charity as much as he says.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely think he. I think I give more charity.
Yeah, well, there have been a lot of charities that have said that he does this thing where he goes on TV and he says, I will donate $1 million to veterans and blah, blah, blah. And 6 months later, they're still waiting for the $1 million. Like he doesn't pay them.
Right.
Or he only sends them like $100, literally.
Yeah.
And so I think it's more embarrassing from that point of view than anything else. But you know what? Fuck you. You should have given up those taxes. You should have just played ball all along. And
But I think for a moment though, we should slam the Democrats too. I mean, are they ever going to do their jobs while they're in government?
No.
This is ridiculous. Since the moment he's gotten in, they started with the Russia thing, and CNN, MSNBC in particular, want to be taken as serious news, and they had Stormy Daniels on. How do you have a porn star on the dog? And her idiot lawyer, that's about it. And her lawyer now is in trouble tried to shake down Nike. He's going to prison, maybe Avenatti. I mean, look at the people that they've had on. And if you watch CNN or MSNBC, they have just done 2 full years of almost around the clock, even the weekends, Russia. Putin is sucking his dick and telling him what to do, blah, 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 and all this, and now nothing. Or pretty much nothing. 500 subpoenas, 280 search warrants, 13 different countries investigated, all this stuff. I can't believe Mueller missed anything. This is a pretty ethical guy, a tough guy. He used to be a Marine. I mean, I don't think so. As far as the Democrats go, Nadler, these assholes are just playing to their base right now. They're just trying to make sure that they're popular. The left wants all this. This should not, stop now. Go do your job. Even though your job is to have big, stupid government.
But isn't it really just continuing that cycle? Because when Obama was president, what did Republicans do for 6 years? When they
Benghazi.
And it was just one thing.
And it turned out to be nothing.
Yeah, and it turned out to be nothing, but it was one thing after another constantly. So, am I surprised? No. But I do wish, actually, this would be, if you ever needed a reason for a third-party president, this is the reason. Someone who was not beholden to either party, and he can pick and choose whatever he thinks or she thinks makes sense to him. Like, personally, I'd love to see a libertarian president that could get in there and decide, no, release your taxes. Or no, this is ridiculous, But, honestly, for everyone out there, and this, Larry, leads me to my next thing is sort of please stop telling me that if you vote for a libertarian or you vote for a Green Party or you vote for a communist, you're wasting your vote. Stop that. First of all, nothing will change if you keep voting for the lesser of two evils every fucking time.
Right.
Donald Trump, Obama, all these are the results of voting for the lesser of two evils for decades.
Right.
The fact that you keep saying, well, I don't like Hillary, but I hate Trump, so I have to vote for Hillary because if I don't vote for Hillary, it's really a vote for Trump. No, it's whoever you voted for. That we live in New York. We knew who was going to win New York from day one. It was going to be Clinton, and she did win the state. Okay. But you know what we did? We voted Libertarian anyway because people listen to these protest votes. They listen to them, Larry.
Yep, I got to the polling at 6 o'clock in the morning. I was one of the first people. I voted for Gary Johnson. I mean, look, do I know that he's going to lose? Yeah, I know that. But it's not throwing your vote away. Believe it or not, I mean, what he said is absolutely right. They showed that the last election, at least half of each candidate's voters were just because they hated the other person so much. People voting for Hillary who were even Bernie supporters, because Trump just bothered them so much, and even though they considered her a corporate Democrat, and which she is, they were like, well, we're going to have to vote for her because this Trump is blah, 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 blah. And a lot of people that he got were just, they couldn't stand her.
Oh, to this day?
To this day, yeah. So this is a bad way of doing things. And then, of course, you throw in that in D.C., nothing is getting done. Everything is so partisan. Now, there used to be some working, give and take, something you compromise. Not anymore. Now compromise by both sides is considered surrendering.
Yeah.
You didn't get 100% of what you want, you failed. This is ridiculous. I mean, look, I'm a small government person, but there has to be something. They have to function, and they're not functioning. And Trump has been off his $4 trillion more in debt.
Oh,
it's just it's going. Everything's going in the wrong direction. So all the people who are already planning on voting for Trump, his campaign slogan is going to be "Keep America Great," and some idiot leftist is going to be running. To join in, John was talking about the third party. The CEO from Starbucks now is definitely looks like he's going to run. Now, of course, good, but it helps Trump. Because I guarantee you, the people who are going to want liking this guy enough to vote for him are going to be people who probably would favor a Democrat.
Well, that's the interesting thing. Howard Schultz says he left the Democrats because they've become too radically insane. Now, what's interesting is all these celebrity leftists, which Schultz said, "Why are you? Fuck you! Don't." And they lined up at his town hall and stuff, calling him an asshole, chanting "asshole," because they're convinced that he's taking away Democratic votes. And my point of view, the same thing that Republicans who said if you vote for Gary Johnson, you're voting for Clinton, you're taking away from Trump. And here's the thing. if you voted for Gary Johnson, what could be a pure, or if you voted for Jill Stein, what could be a purer expression of ideology than voting for a third-party candidate?
Right. You have to be voting your beliefs and your convictions.
Yeah.
Because if you know you're going to get killed, and you have no chance, what did Gary Johnson get, 1.7 or the other vote?
Yeah,
or something like that,
it wasn't bad, but it was nowhere near enough to make a dent.
No, not at all. But you have to realize the definition of throwing your vote away. You want to know what throwing your vote is? Just not voting.
Yeah.
If you don't vote and you're not part of it, then you also lose the right to complain. But in my opinion, but if you're no, but if, if you're
George Carlin used to say, if
Yeah.
you didn't vote, you're the only one who can complain. And he always used to joke. He used to say like, hey, who voted for this asshole? Not me. I get to complain about him. I get to vote about him.
Well, I think if you don't participate, you're then shut up. But look, the guy from CO let him run from Starbucks. Also funny, very quickly. Some former Democrat from Alaska who's 88 years old, Mike Gravel. Did you hear about this guy? He says he's running, but he has no intentions of winning. He doesn't care about winning. He wants people to send him just enough money so he can keep his campaign floating. And then as soon as the debate starts, he's going to drop out and support the most progressive candidate. This guy. It's really going to be in 2016. John and I sat here and told you that it was going to be like a clown car
for
Republicans.
Right.
And sure enough, they wound up with like 17 candidates. The Democrats are going to have like 30. And you're going to start even getting some non-politicians.
And the scary part is, you're right, Larry, I was just about to bring it up.
Yeah.
You had the clown car of Republicans in 2016, and really the most despicable clown of them all came out on top. I have a feeling the same thing is going to happen with the Democrats. They're going to have a clown car of candidates. Probably the most despicable one of them is going to come out on top. It's not going to be Joe Biden, I don't think. Right now, Bernie is in the lead. Now, he's a big enough clown as it is. But you never know. Like, it might be...
But there's a whole anti-white male thing going on the left right now. So Beto, Bernie, and Biden have an issue.
All of them do. But at the end of the day, it's also whether they want to admit it or not is who's going to raise the most money. And the people who are proven money raisers right now are the three white males.
Yeah, that's another hypocrisy of the Democrats. I like that. The New York Times, a couple of days ago, front page, it says Democrats courting and counting on rich donors, but they're being very quiet about it. Yeah. They love to bash these people, but they'll take their money.
And it's just ridiculous. But anyway, so keep an eye on that clown car, like we said, because in 2020, I think it'll be the most ridiculous candidate the left can put out there. Somebody who's like for free everything, like Andrew Yang. Andrew Yang is one of these guys who runs around like he's the guy we said last show wants to give every adult over the age of 18 $1,000 a month, period. Whether you work or not, whether you pay taxes or not, just wants to give them $1,000. Oblivious, supposedly someone as smart as he is, oblivious to the fact that if you give free money to people, what does that do to the economy? Everybody charges you more money because they know you're getting free dollars from the government.
Right.
Like we said, if I'm a landlord and I know everybody's getting $1,000 a month, why wouldn't I raise everybody's rent $1,000 a month?
Right. Outside of the unproductive, lazy factor that goes into if you get the nanny state to the point where you don't have to do anything.
Yeah. You know who benefit? Do you ever play poker, Larry?
Occasionally.
Yeah. So what's the worst thing someone can do when you're losing? Like if you're losing at the table, what's the worst thing you could do? You ask for the stakes to be raised.
Right.
Because you figure, wow, with higher stakes I can take bigger pots and this and that. Raising the stakes always hurts the person with the smallest stack on the table, right? Because they can't bet effectively. But in their loser minds, they think that's the way they can quickly get back their cash is by raising stakes. Same thing in an economy where the government gives everyone money. Who do you think is going to benefit? The poor people?
No.
Nope. It's going to be the people who still run the means of production.
It's going to be all the people that they complain about.
Exactly.
On the left. It's
the landlords, the store owners, the small business owners, the big corporations. They're the ones who benefit because they control the prices.
Right.
Right? And if you go full communist, where you say that the government controls prices, this and that, guess what happens?
No.
You're in a fucking Soviet Union, and then you go bankrupt in 40 years, period, or Venezuela, or Cuba, or any of these other communist shitholes, Romania, China. before they discovered capitalism.
Yeah, it's interesting though. There's an opportunity here for libertarians,
Yeah.
but also for the Republicans, to be the parties of capitalism and just say all this stuff, the Medicaid for all, the Green New Deal, all this stupid stuff.
Right.
We're not doing that. We believe in free markets, free people,
But
following the Constitution.
You know what the problem is with that though? Republicans are not that anymore.
No, they're not. No, that's why I said there's an opportunity.
Yeah, but they've lost
that
it. They've lost it because they've become too enamored with their own. Look, Tucker Carlson, of all people, a couple of weeks ago, Tucker Carlson did an editorial, a rant, whatever you want to call it, on how capitalism has failed. And he was serious.
Really?
Yeah, that he was, not that he's anti-capitalism, but he goes, well, we have to mix in capitalism with something else because, you know, there's poor people, there's too much wealth concentration at the top, and this and that. And he fell into citing these old, tired statistics. Like, look, I saw Elizabeth Warren today, I think on Twitter, said in 1960, there were, 10% of the people couldn't afford their rent. And now it's still the same, it's still at 10%, which means nothing has improved. And I tweeted back at her saying, yeah, that would be right if the same people renting in 1960 are the same 10% that can't afford their rent today. Guess what? They're not the same people.
Right.
People who talk about inequality assume that everybody stays the same. Do you know where the greatest movement in inequality occurs? At the top. Meaning the top 10% are the ones who fall in and out of that 10% the most. Because most of their wealth is tied in the stock market, commodities futures, currency futures, and these things go up and down. Real estate. All that shit, you may say, oh, they go from the top 10% to the middle 25 or whatever. That's not the point. The point is there's constant movement. Where's the greatest movement? From people in the bottom quintiles up. They move up.
Right.
Okay? They live better lives. And the thing you have to understand is, people below the poverty line in the U.S. are in the top 5% of the people globally. Right? The worst person in the U.S. lives like a king compared to most of the other world.
Right. In other countries, poverty
is poverty.
You really have nothing.
You die.
In this country, it's what, $10,000 or whatever.
No, it's like $14,000, $15,000.
Yeah, something like that. And and even these people, you probably have some place maybe to live. You have a TV, you have a car. You might have even these basic things. In other countries, poverty means.
Well, the per capita average.
Like almost like a homeless person here.
Yeah, well, the homeless person here is still better off because the average per capita, I think, worldwide is something like $6,000-$7,000 a year in U.S. dollars.
Yeah, that's about it.
So I could be off a little bit, but it's in that range. And when you think that our poverty line is 14 or 15,000, I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm just saying keep things in perspective, So people who are radically shitting on capitalism and want to go to socialism, keep in mind most of the world is not free.
Right.
And they have the greatest amount of poverty. We have we used to have the most, but like Sweden has the greatest amount of economic freedom right now. A lot of those Scandinavian countries, and that's another thing where democratic socialists lead you astray. Right. Their economies are basically free in those countries.
Yeah.
It's their governmental programs that are socialist, but the people making money are still making money the old-fashioned way. But anyway, so it'll be interesting to see how that turns out in 2020. Larry, transitioning from Trump rubes supporting him not giving out his taxes, let's switch over to something else these rubes are doing. And I can't emphasize this enough. Vaccinate your fucking kids. You fucking hayseeds. What is the matter with these people, Larry?
Well, that might explain their fealty for Trump or whatever.
Holy shit.
And I saw something the other day.
Yeah,
measles is, unfortunately, it's on the rise. It's up. There have been more cases in like Michigan and California.
New York, California.
There are people who are simply refusing to get their kids vaccinated for reasons of they don't believe they need it, religious objections, political, there are maybe conspiracies.
They don't understand it.
They don't understand it. They don't think it really affects or helps.
Or better yet,
and they don't care. And the worst part, they don't seem to care that if your kid is sick, you might make some other kids sick.
They will make other people sick. Yeah. See, here's the thing. These rubes, much like their leader, Trump, who the other day claimed that wind farms cause cancer. And I'm struggling to understand what excuse he gives for this. But yeah, he thought that a spinning blade, at the wind farms, caused cancer. So that's why he's not supporting them, as opposed to coal, which only causes black lung disease.
Right.
You fucking group. But anyway,
well, he's got to keep those votes in West Virginia.
But anyway, so my point being that you rubes who think vaccines are look, Alex Jones, that asshole, gets on InfoWars and says that vaccines are a form of mind control. There's people who go out there and say vaccines cause autism. There's people who go out there and say vaccines, well, you don't have to vaccinate your kid because if all the other kids are vaccinated, where do the measles come from? Listen, you fucking idiots. In 2000, the year 2000, so less than 20 years ago, measles was officially listed as eliminated in the United States. There was not a single fucking case for a certain amount of years. Do you understand how fucking stupendous that is? How tremendous it is that we as humans eliminated a potentially fucking deadly disease that was the scourge of humanity for hundreds of years, for centuries? It is literally like the person who figures out how you can get AIDS, then take a pill, and it's gone the next day. Right. That's the level of achievement, getting rid of mumps, measles, rubella, chickenpox, all that shit. And
it's the penicillin breakthrough.
Yeah, it's better than penicillin, all right? Because penicillin doesn't work that much anymore.
Oh, really?
These vaccines do.
Oh,
and
okay.
to have you fucking rubes listen to people like Jenny McCarthy, a fucking like pinup cunt, like who her greatest claim to fame and intellectual achievement is she learned how to make her tits look better. And you're listening to her for advice on how to vaccinate your fucking kid. Listen, I don't give a shit about your kids. And as a libertarian, if those kids don't want to be vaccinated, that's your fucking problem. But guess what? It's my problem. When they're out in society, when they're in public places getting other people sick. Rockland County, here in New York, had to officially ban unvaccinated kids, mainly, from any public space. And you know what? Good for them. This is one of those times where the state is acting to prevent aggression. Because this is a form of aggression. When you physically make others sick because of your rude beliefs.
Yeah. Okay?
And for those of you that think it's mind control, like I've heard all sorts of nonsense. Listen, about 15, 20 years ago, there was a theory that in some cases, these vaccines caused autism. Okay? And that's when autism was on the rise. Larry, what happened was it was very well studied. And what happened was they found out that the guy who printed the original study, a British guy in the Lancet, was a complete fraud. He made everything up.
He made the whole thing up.
He admitted to it after something like 10 years. Like, he just made it up, okay? So now all these rubes are saying, well, it causes autism. Why did autism go up? Nobody knows why autism went up. Nobody does. There's a lot of different factors. You know what the one thing we know is? That vaccines don't cause it.
Right.
There's no link between the two. There's no statistical link. There's no empirical link. Nothing. Okay? So, please, vaccinate your kids. And if you don't vaccinate them, lock them up in your basement. Seriously,
yeah.
That's it.
Keep them from contact with other children.
And honestly, these are the people who vote.
Yeah.
You know, I've always said everyone should vote. Anybody who is mentally capable should have the right to vote.
And on a serious note, I was talking before about all your social media stuff. You know what? If you are watching this and you think that not vaccinating is the right way to, let us know. I would actually like to hear the arguments for why you're not doing this. And I'd like you to kind of chronicle for me what it is that brought you to this point that you don't think your children need these shots and you don't care what the effect is on other people. And if it really is because of some of the reasons that we talked about, because what he said is absolutely right. Jenny McCarthy doesn't know what she's talking about. I know one of her children has autism, but even for years, even that brief period of time she was going out with Jim Carrey, he was helping her do it too. These people don't know what the fuck they're talking about. So do me a favor, if you're watching this, if you actually have an argument for the anti-vaccination, I would like to hear this.
Please let us know. Hit us up. Yeah. I think I've heard. I even heard. I saw one group when they. I think it was on Vice. They asked him, "Why aren't you vaccinating your kids?" And he said something like, it's mind control, it's the government taking us over, it causes autism. He listed all of them. As the reporter debunked everything and showed him videos of like scientists saying, no, this is not the case. You know what his answer was? Well, I don't know nothing about no science, but I don't trust it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people like this who like...
And it's scary, you know what it is to me? It's scary to me to see this happening in this country.
Yeah.
See, I remember, you were talking about Vice before. I was watching one of those shows, and this goes back a couple of years. They have these problems in Africa. A lot of the countries, Nigeria, they went through a whole list of countries where they can't get AIDS vaccine, anything, mumps, measles, anything that over there, and here's why. The main reason for the local governments are saying this, and their religious leaders are saying this, number one, it's a way for the CIA to control them. Number two, they don't trust scientists and things like this. And then number three, you actually have cultures, I'm not making fun of them, but that you have cultures where they prefer what is the equivalent of like a witch doctor or a local priestess, and he comes over, and if your child is sick, and they showed it, people, they're holding their baby, and he comes in, and he like hits it with like a leaf, and he mumbled, like this big leafy thing, and he hit it, and he said some, honestly, you would have to refer to it as mumbo jumbo, and he walks out, and then they translated, the lady said, I feel so much better, and, my baby's gonna be okay, and like blah, blah, blah. Well, and meanwhile, the CIA, government, foreigners, I mean, like, look at the list of things that people come out with. That's what made me think when John said that there's some hit, when, well, I don't know what it is, science, I don't trust it. Because, you know what it is? Because that always ties into what I'm always making fun of. Like those guys like at the Creation Museum and it's the same thing. The scientists have shown. Like the dinosaurs lived millions of, no, they lived 4,000 years ago.
And Jesus put a saddle on them and rode
and rode on a triceratops, like around it.
Yeah. So please, Rubes, like, it's okay not to know something. It's okay if you admit you don't know something.
Right.
Like I do it all the time.
But not irrational fears of things, even after being shown step by step what they're. So if you have an anti-vaccination argument, let us know. I would love to hear that.
Okay, so that's cool. So let's get the rubes out of the way. Okay. Now, I want to talk about a different type of rubism, Larry. Maybe that's the theme of the show. Rubes? Yeah. Rubes. Yeah.
Rubes, hicks,
hillbillies, and even those who don't think they are. Here's an example.
People thought Larry.
Larry, I would say that in recent times, like say the last 6 months or so, certainly since Trump got elected, you see a lot of these articles that say hate on the rise in the country. Hate crimes on the rise.
Right. Yep.
Hate groups forming everywhere.
White nationalists.
Yeah, I even saw this one article, I think it was on Vox or it was on 538.com.
Okay.
Nate Silver's site. Anyway, correlating hate crime increases with wherever Trump campaigned or held a rally. Now, when you read those articles, you're almost tempted to say, yeah, it kind of makes sense, right? There's a lot of rubes running around. Trump himself probably is a racist. So, all right.
They had one or two incidents at his rallies. So one guy turned out, I think, to be a plant.
I don't know.
It
goes back and forth. I don't know.
Okay.
But here's something that most people don't realize. When these hate crime statistics come out, there's usually two sources. One is the FBI. And they've been criticized for not they themselves, but their methodology has been criticized because they don't get everything reported, allegedly. Because what the FBI does is it collects local police enforcement cases and sort of like collates them and builds them up, right? The second thing that most people don't realize is the Southern Poverty Law Center is the institution that typically publishes these lists and declares hate groups and hate mongers and hate terrorists, whatever.
Neo-Nazis,
white nationalists,
Klansmen, white nationalists.
Right. And here's something you need to know: the Southern Poverty Law Center, is the SPLC for short, used to be an organization that was founded on the premise of providing legal support and advocating for poor blacks in the South. That during the Civil Rights era, and I think before that a little bit, Larry, Their mission was these people were being thrown in front of kangaroo courts, especially during the civil rights era. No, and it's true. They did some great work.
Yeah, Morris Dees was the head.
There you go. I forgot his name. Yeah, Morris Dees. And there you go. And they provided a service to people who were being put upon by the government and by racists. So they started off with noble roots, but now they've degraded into nothing more than a money-making smear machine. Okay? Yeah. And let me give you an example. For example, the FRC, the Family Resource Center, right, conservative think tank, is labeled as a hate organization by the SPLC. The reason they're labeled a hate organization is because they're anti-gay. Yeah. They advocate for anti-gay legislation. Now, whether you are pro or anti-gay legislation, we are pro. We're libertarians. Live and let live, okay? There are people who can make reasoned arguments for why, for example, a gay couple shouldn't adopt a non-gay child, okay? Whether you agree with it or not. Taking the position that they should not be allowed to do it doesn't make you a hate monger.
Yeah, it doesn't make you a homophobe.
It doesn't make you
go through the whole list of things.
Yeah, it doesn't make you that. And it certainly doesn't make the FRC a hate group. So you get the point. And they do this all the time. And by the way, they never do that with people on the left. They are clearly a left-leaning organization, right, borderline communist organization, okay? Well, recently, this was brought to light, and here's two incidents. And I want all of you to keep this in mind when you read these articles about hate statistics, okay? For example, one of the people, hey Phil, can you read the name over there? I forgot to bring it along. Mazad, he used to be an Islamic terrorist, okay? Okay. And he saw the error of his ways.
It's Majid Nawaz.
See, this is why we like Filipino Phil better than old white Phil. White Phil would have run screaming. We never would have heard his voice. Filipino Phil has it right there. What was that again?
Majid Nawaz.
Majid Nawaz. If you see this guy on YouTube, he's actually someone who's very impassioned. He actually was a radical Islamist who saw the error of his ways. And since then, he's converted. He's preaching the peaceful side of Islam. And he's actually advised several British prime ministers, Larry, on how to handle the Islamic situation. And
I've seen him interviewed.
Yeah, and he's actually someone who is anything but a terrorist anymore. But here's what the SPLC did. Do you know what they're calling him now, Larry?
Hate speech, hate monger.
Anti-Muslim hate speech guy.
Okay.
He is a Muslim who is speaking out against radical Muslim terrorism. Yeah. Okay? And they called him an anti-Muslim hate guy, whatever. Well, the SPLC is so powerful that when people started to say, hey, we're not going to invite this guy to speak anymore because he's a hate monger, he's a hate speech guy, he actually sued them.
Good for him.
And said, go fuck yourselves.
Good for him.
And you know what? They got settled out of court. They paid him $3.3 million. And they apologized to him. Okay? The SPLC has done that to a lot of people. Most recently, someone we know, Gavin McInness and the Proud Boys. They were labeled by the SPLC as a white nationalist alt-right hate group. Okay? Right. Now, if you know Gavin McInness, he's a comedian, basically. Right. He's a provocateur. He likes stirring shit up. But he is anything but a white nationalist.
No, he's not.
He's married to a Native American woman.
He's from Canada.
He's from Canada. He's half Scottish, half British or something. Something like that. Anyway, he's anything from. The Proud Boys themselves, I was there in studio live when they were formed. It's based on the chorus of a Broadway musical, Be Proud of Your Boy. And they were basically making fun of one of their stagehands, telling him to man up. And they would make fun of him by singing. To make fun of this guy who was sort of effeminate and honestly quite faggy looking. And they wanted to, like, why don't you go get laid? You know, well, be proud of your boy, right? So eventually what happened is all these, like, teenage and 20-year-old goofballs eventually became members of the Proud Boys. And before you know it, there's Proud Boy chapters all over the world, in the US and Canada and Europe. They wear these weird shirts, and they advocate for men's rights, like in divorce cases.
Right.
And if you read their website, they claim they are pro-West chauvinists.
Right. They refuse to apologize.
They refuse to apologize for anything the West does, and they love Western culture. Look, they're goofy. They certainly have a political opinion. They're not alt-right. They're not Richard Spencer. They're not. And Gavin McInness went out and said, we are not Nazis. We do not support Nazis. We don't want Nazis. We are just guys supporting Western culture.
If you want to get a good look at him, go on YouTube and look up his many appearances on an old Fox show called Red Eye.
Yeah.
He was on all the time. He's hilarious.
Hilarious.
In fact, a lot of times he came on the show dressed up as his father in a kilt with the ridiculous beard and having you're talking about doing all that silly stuff.
Yeah.
This man is not a Nazi, right? They got into a little trouble here in New York like a year ago. They had a fight with some Antifa.
Well, the interesting thing was they were attacked by Antifa.
Yeah, they were attacked. Yeah.
And there's video of Antifa running up to Gavin McInness as he was going into NYU to give a speech, where they sprayed him with pepper spray.
Right.
So, but you know what the problem is? Antifa, being a bunch of weakling leftists, attacked all these burly, the best way to describe it is, think of the burliest Irish guy in a pub. That's what these Proud Boy guys are. They're all 6'3" and 4. They're built like refrigerators. And these skinny little Antifa guys wearing black hoods came up and tried to spray them in the face with pepper spray. Guess what happened? The Antifa guys got their asses handed to them. Go to YouTube and just put down Antifa knockouts, Proud Boys. Every time these Antifa guys come and try to hit you with a chain. Right. Now, interestingly enough, Antifa is not listed as a hate group.
Right, and those networks that I referenced before, like CNN, MSNBC, they never badmouth them. There's always an excuse for them. In fact, when you had the thing that happened in Charlottesville, all the radical leftists, the Revolutionary Communist Party, the Antifa, all these idiots. One guy had a Molotov cocktail. They had sticks with nails in it. They had shit. They had all these weapons, all these things. All the guys at CNN, they only referred to them as the counter-protesters. They only wanted to talk about the white nationalists who are idiots. I mean, granted. But it's terrible what they're doing. So now Gavin McInness, he's not in the group anymore. I think he left.
Well, he stepped down to avoid bringing all this heat on the group.
Yeah.
And also so he could pursue legal action. So he's actually suing SPLC as well. Because the SPLC labeled the Proud Boys a white nationalist group. And of course, what happens when the SPLC does it? The Washington Post, the New York Times.
Yeah, they all get in lockstep.
They all get in lockstep and repeat it. And what's interesting is one of these reporters from one of these rags actually contacted the FBI and said, "Are the Proud Boys on the FBI's
10 most wanted?
No, the hate group list, the FBI group, or domestic terror or whatever." And the FBI said, "No, they're not even on our radar. As far as we're concerned, they're just like some dopey group that drinks beer every Saturday night." The FBI didn't give a shit. The SPLC, when confronted with this, said, "Well, we don't care. It's our list, and we get to say whatever we want.
Right.
It's free speech." So they fell back on free speech. But it's free speech. You want to call them a hate group? Call them a hate group. Guess what? Now Gavin McInness and anybody else can sue you
absolutely
for libel and for slander. Why? Because you're impacting Gavin's ability to earn a living.
Right.
Because nobody wants to hire a Nazi.
And you're putting them at risk.
And you're putting them at risk.
All you need is some of these idiot left-wingers who do doxing and stuff like that. All you need for them to do is find out where he lives. Maybe they harass his wife, his kids. You're putting people at considerable risk. That's why we talked about this on the show many times. That's why I can't stand when whenever their fallback argument is, well, you're a Nazi.
Right.
Everybody's a Nazi. This is the stupidest thing. The problem is that kind of language really smears people. You're racist, Nazi, anything like that. You're pretty much turning somebody into a pariah. The only people who aren't offended by that are Nazis.
Well, so and by the way, this goes back decades. There's a great clip on YouTube from an old firing line with William F. Buckley and I think Gore Vidal.
Gore Vidal, yeah.
Was Gore Vidal the guy who talked with the list?
Yeah, he's a gay guy.
Gay guy with the
He's
list.
very left wing, yeah.
So Gore Vidal kept calling William F. Buckley on his own show a Nazi.
Yeah.
And he kept saying, "You're a Nazi. You're a Nazi," with you know. And this was in the 60s. And on the air, William Buckley said, "Now listen, you fruit." You see that?
Yeah.
Or a pansy. He called him something
a pansy,
derogatory
yeah.
for a gay guy. And he said, "If you keep calling me a Nazi, I'm going to knock you out where you're sitting right now."
Yeah.
Because to someone who went through World War II, to someone who actually fought Nazis, being called a Nazi is pretty shitty. Now, you have the right to call someone a Nazi, but again, you're going to get sued over it. So if you want to help Gavin out, I think he has a website, a GoFundMe called defendgavin.com. So we'll throw him out that little thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Go to defendgavin.com, see if you can throw some money towards his legal fund to sue the SPLC. And by the way, the SPLC now raises millions of dollars a year for themselves. Millions. They don't donate it anywhere, by the way.
Yeah.
They're not a charity. They fundraise for themselves, and now you're caught in the cycle of they figured out that putting out these lists, these sort of like clickbaity sort of like is real money to them. So if you see anything that says hate crimes on the rise, read through it. Be diligent, like me and Larry. And if you see, according to the SPLC, if you see that anywhere in the article, take it with a grain of salt, or just like Larry said, throw it out. It's probably
nothing.
All right,
Okay.
let's move on, Larry.
It's somewhat related to that.
Yeah,
let's talk about, while we're talking about the abuse of power and authority and being irresponsible, everybody's favorite, we were talking about Facebook before, Mark Zuckerberg.
I feel something coming on.
Yeah, Mark
Could this
Zuckerberg.
be douchebag of the week?
Can we put "of the week" under the shirt?
Yeah, I'll try.
That's Kate Rivera. You can't see it. Yeah, Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
Now Facebook. He's a billionaire.
Facebook rules the planet.
Right. It's I notice Elizabeth Warren doesn't want to break that up. Only Google, Apple,
right.
companies that are
Amazon.
good things. Yeah, Amazon. So look, Mark Zuckerberg came out now. Look, obviously Facebook has taken a lot of heat for posts and memes and stuff that have been on their site that they haven't been able to like delete right away or
Russian
something against
influence.
the Russian influence. So now Mark Zuckerberg wants the government to regulate certain speech. Okay, and he came out and he's pretty strident about it because I think he also thinks this will help his business model,
Of course.
so that they won't get maybe
Yeah.
so many lawsuits, they won't get in so much trouble. But he thinks, think of what this guy did with Facebook. The whole thing is speech.
Yeah.
The whole thing started out with you could have this site, and instead of just emailing people, that you can send photos, you can do this,
He built it while he was in school.
right, in college.
Yeah.
So what happens now, Mark thinks that the government should do it. And I can't believe, this is flooring me on the level of hypocrisy and just stupid. What is the thinking behind this, Mark? Your entire successful Facebook, your business model, everything is based on free speech.
Well,
I understand that some people use it for ugliness or bullying. They had, I saw a Dateline, they talked about the bullying effect on and cyber crimes and different things that go on. But I mean, for you to come out and to say that the government should be regulated, what you should do is regulate your own business. If that's how you feel, it's a private entity. Go, good. You want to hire entire teams. I assume they already have it, right? Hire teams that will go through stuff and regulate it. See what's being put on your site. If you don't like it, get rid of it. Tell people the rules. When they open up a Facebook account, say, look, here are the terms and conditions and whatever.
Which is what they have now.
Right, yeah, I mean, but that's it. That's the way to do it. Not to tell the government that they, and even if the government started to regulate, where's that going to end? It's going to end where you're not going to be able to say it's going to put comedy out of business, it's going to put everything.
Yeah, and Larry's right. Look, this is an old ploy of market leaders. So when you have a large market share of whatever business you're in,
Right.
people, here's the fallacy that socialists have, like Elizabeth Warren and AOC and Bernie and all the Kamala Harris people. They think that the more powerful a company is, the more market share a company has, the more they fear government regulation. No.
No, of course.
It's the exact opposite.
It eliminates all the competition.
Yeah, no monopoly can exist in this country without government support. I know all of you are like, what about antitrust law, Larry? What about antitrust law? Antitrust law sucks a dick. Here's what happens. The free market will always, always have creative destruction. No matter, look, remember when MySpace was the shit, Larry? Everybody loved MySpace and this and that. Oh man, it's so big, it needs to be regulated. It wasn't the government that brought down MySpace, it was Facebook.
Right.
All right? Well, you know, what...
It was a competitor that put out a better product that people liked.
Exactly. This happens. Remember when Microsoft was the shit? Oh, we got to regulate Microsoft, break up Microsoft. What brought down Microsoft a couple of pegs? Apple. What's going to bring down Apple? The next Apple. What's going to bring down Amazon? A better Amazon, okay? That and by the way, that's why free societies constantly progress. That's why, like, central command bullshit authorities constantly regress, Larry. They never advance. Because the government really doesn't know how to do anything other than hold power. So this is classic. Zuckerberg says, you know what? I'm done with you assholes. Like Larry said, I've hired all these people. We still can't figure out who's a bot, who's a Russian, who's this, who's that. And you know what? I'm tired of conservatives telling me I don't give them enough of a platform. I'm tired of liberals calling me a Nazi supporter because I let Alex Jones on the platform or whatever. I'm tired of it. Guess what? I'm going to turn this over to the federal government. And by the way, what do I do when that happens? We're going to have rules that are so tough, no competitor can come into this market.
Right. And it also frees him up from all the shit he's been taking.
Right. Walls right off.
If you're giving me shit about this, and that, and I go, oh, there you go. He's the government. That's it. So now I don't have to hear about it. Anybody complains to me?
Yeah.
Speak to this guy.
Right. Go talk to Bernie Sanders.
The complaint department.
Yeah, go talk to Bernie Sanders. Yeah. And literally, if you go back in the history of the U.S., there are all these companies that do this. Look, I think we may have mentioned it a couple of years ago, but hummus. You know that chickpea stuff, Larry, that you put on a cracker and eat. Sabra, I think, is the #1 brand in the U.S. They own something like 65-70% of the market. The U.S. government, the Food and Drug Administration, never gave a shit about hummus. They were like, all right, as long as it doesn't have any bacteria in it, who gives a fuck, right? Like, do whatever you want. So the market grew, and Sabra, I think, took over. But guess what, Larry? Now there's competitors. Right. Like Boar's Head makes a great hummus, Tribe hummus. There's all these different hummuses. And they're eating slowly into that 70% market share. Yeah. So what did Sabras do? They ran to Washington and said, you know what? Since so many people are eating hummus, I think you guys should have hummus regulation. You guys need to inspect the chickpeas. You got to inspect the process and send inspectors to the factories and the processing plants. And everybody's like, wow, look at Sabras. They're so socially responsible. They want the government. You know what Sabras wants? They want to make it so expensive that no other company is going to enter the market. Right. They're building competitive moats by using the free resources of the government.
You mean they're building walls?
They're building walls, building moats, they're building castles, whatever the fuck. And they're doing it without spending a penny. Because guess what? The regulations, they recommended for the government.
It's all stuff they can easily handle.
Well, it's stuff they're already doing, right? But they know that their competitors aren't. So whenever Facebook goes to Washington and says, okay, regulate me, that's step one you have to worry about. Keep your eye on that. They're trying to prevent competition. The second thing is, really, government regulates speech?
Yeah, that's scary.
First of all, unless you have assholes like Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders now all of a sudden, in addition to shitting on the Second Amendment, shitting on the First Amendment, government can't regulate speech. They can't. But I don't know, Larry, now with the way things are going, this douchebag of the week of yours, Mark Zuckerberg, who knows? This might be the beginning of the end. Like, if you start regulating Facebook for speech, specifically, that's pretty fucked up.
Right, because once the government establishes, here's the language you can't use. Cannot. Or not just for Facebook. Once they do it, then some other guy's going to go, oh, hey, apply that here. Oh, apply that, you know. And then the next thing you know, you're like that poor comedian in Canada who told me
Mike Ward told a joke about a lesbian,
and he got arrested.
And fine. He had to flee the country.
Yeah, that's
He's
crazy.
living here now, so they can't get him to pay 100,000 Canadian or whatever it was. It was ridiculous. But here, said it before, I'll say it again. The most anti-American thing you could do is be anti-speech. Even more than being anti-gun. Even more than being anti-Second Amendment. The most un-American thing you could be is fucking anti-free speech.
And like in connection with this, and this is where, it scares me. The reason I picked those networks before, CNN, MSNBC, because I think they're actually worse than Fox. And to this extent, Christine Amanpour,
yes,
who's probably the most overrated fucking asshole. I don't know why she's considered
famous, yeah.
brilliant, genius, whatever. Okay, she had Comey on a couple of nights ago. Did you see this?
No, I missed it.
She has him on, and she goes, the Trump supporters chanting, lock her up. She goes, well, it's kind of hate speech. Don't you think the government should go after them?
She said that?
Yeah, she wants the government to go after these people because lock her up is hate speech.
Even if it were.
Even if it was, who gives a shit? And it's not, what the hell is hate speech about lock her up? I mean, I could understand if they said she's a so-and-so because she's a woman. She's a so-and-so because, if there was something hateful, actually, she's qualifying chanting lock her up as hate speech. Where is this going to end? And she said this, and to his credit, as much of an idiot as he is, he goes, well, I don't think the government should be doing that.
Good. But I have to tell you, why do we think that there's an exception to the First Amendment based on hate? Yeah. Why can't I hate someone? As long as I don't touch you, as long as I don't assault you, why can't I hate you? Why do I have to love you?
Yeah.
And even if it is hate speech, go fuck yourself. I've said it. I wish someone would come after me for hate speech. I'd love to make this a First Amendment case all the way to the Supreme Court. Fuck it.
See, the problem is they always cite, like Charlottesville,
Yeah.
like some individual act of violence.
Yeah.
And then, once they try to establish that, they say, well, look at the language these people use. This is common among dangerously violent people. And, of course, we have to do something about that. We have laws, but we have to go after these people. We have to stop them. And that's what leads into what we were talking about before, that they don't talk about radical left-wing groups who are dangerous. They talk about these radical right-wing groups. And, of course, those assholes aren't doing themselves any favor.
No.
They commit a murder here. They do something horrible.
No,
and they're scumbags. Yeah. But
we're not alone in this.
No, we're not at all. But the reality is, look, if you want to sit around and use a lot of bad language and use slurs, and that's covered by the First Amendment. I understand it's ignorant, it's unsophisticated, it's hurtful. Nobody wants to be insulted, but the reality is the First Amendment covers it. It's covered. The fact that leftists don't like mean language is ridiculous, especially since, right, what I said about Christian Amanpour, Zuckerberg, they're going to come up with a standard that you're going to have like 4 words left because everything's going to be so bland and so ridiculous.
Well, it's like these European countries that have hate speech laws, or Canada. The concept that 4 dykes went to a comedy club and a comedian and they were heckling him,
right?
And he responded by making a lesbian joke because they were apparently obviously lesbians. They sued him and they got him on a hate crime. What the fuck? Yeah. Like I said, it's the most un-American because it's not even a matter of hurting other people's feelings. And again, you should be able to.
Now, of course, in Canada, you can do this.
No, Canada's not us.
No, exactly. I mean, all joking aside, Canada doesn't have a constitution. No. They've got their laws, and that's it. They don't have a constitution they're following like we do. And what we have, the First Amendment, and it's really scary though. I mean, I feel sorry. I'm glad he actually got away to this country. Yeah. I didn't know that until you just said it. But you can see the formation of this now, and the other business now that's tied to it now. All the white guys like Beto O'Rourke and Biden, they all have to apologize for things now. There's a lot of everybody's doing an apology tour.
Well, the apology tour is more tied into what they perceive as electability, which is different. That I'm not, I think it's pussy-like, and I don't think there's any real men left in this country except for me, Larry, and Filipino Phil. There's no men left in this fucking country. But aside from that, it's less concerning to me than the free speech issue. Because look, free speech is essential not just because I want to say go fuck yourself, which I should and want to do. It's because without free speech, you have no free exchange of ideas. And that's how we progress as a society.
I was going to say.
We have to talk to each other. We have to argue with each other. We have to risk offending each other in order to move ahead. What if Galileo couldn't speak his mind? Oh, fuck, spinning around the sun, Galileo? Shut the fuck up. Don't even say that shit.
Yeah, you don't know what you're talking about.
Or those fucking, like, anti-vaxxers, you know. Look, as ignorant as they are, they can say whatever they want.
That's right.
All right? I'll do my best to argue with them, to reason with them, and to try to persuade them to change their mind. But that's whole part of free speech,
right.
man. Like, what do you think? I was born a libertarian? Larry was born a libertarian? We were born butt naked with nothing in our heads, like everybody else. Free speech is what got us here, and we grew up in one of the most liberal states and cities in the country, possibly in the world, and we're sitting here, and how did we turn out to be libertarian? Nobody put a chip in our heads.
Yeah.
We read, we talked to people.
Right.
Brave people who, in the face of protests and shit, came out and said, here's what I believe liberty is.
Yeah, there used to be liberals who stood for just...
That's the irony of it.
They were the liberals, you know, up until like the mid-90s.
Yeah.
Liberals and liberal Democrats leftists, they used to be the absolutists on the First Amendment. They were the ones, the ACLU fought for the Nazis to go through Skokie.
Yeah.
A million different things I could say now.
Or for Larry Flint with Hustler.
Larry Flint,
yeah.
Okay. And now, a few years ago, the ACLU put out a one-page thing, like in the New York Times thing, or an article that they said, in retrospect, we shouldn't have done that. The Skokie thing. I was like, what are you talking about? Look, I understand neo-Nazis, they're assholes. I understand Skokie at the time was like 73% Jewish community. I got it. And they deliberately picked that place, obviously.
Right.
Okay, but as long as they got their permits and their papers and everything.
Plus, you shine a light on these roaches.
Of course.
Like, that's the other thing.
You really want them functioning in the shadows? And
do you think it's coincidence that there's this rise of the alt-right? It's not because of Trump necessarily.
Yeah.
It's because nobody wants to talk about this shit. So what do these people do? They hide in the shadows, and this is how they recruit. God damn it, boy, they don't even let us talk about Hitler.
Yeah.
You know we're onto something. Because they don't want us. The Jews who run the media don't want us. And then all of a sudden, like, you're not exposed to free speech that's allowed to talk to this, and you're sitting there and going, well, maybe this fucker is right. Maybe the Jews do run everything. You know, who knows, right? You have to be able to talk, and to not be able to talk, Larry, I can't emphasize this enough. Most un-American fucking thing on the planet.
One of our last shows, before our little hiatus, I once said if I was doing a political talk show, like all these stupid shows like Morning Joe, and everything, everybody's in lockstep. You have to listen to Mika Brzezinski whine and cry, and Joe Scarborough, asshole, used to be a Republican a million years ago. Now he's as liberal as everybody else. Barnacle, all these people on the show, they're all the same. They all have the same point of view. They bring on people with the same point of view. Eugene Robinson, all these people. I've always told people, if I had a show, I'd have a Republican, somebody who considers himself a conservative Republican. Right, well, no, more than that. I would have a conservative Republican, I'd have a liberal Democrat. I'd have a neo-Nazi, I'd have a socialist. No, I'm not kidding. I'd have a Klansman, I'd have a communist. There are radical groups. I'd have an Antifa asshole. I'd have an independent. I'd have somebody from the Flat Earth Society. I would have every fucking asshole with every stupid point of view, and except, of course, libertarians, because we know what we're talking about. And I would have, like, a little table. And look, if you're going to be offended by it, don't watch the show.
Exactly.
And I would literally just have every stupid conceivable, like possible, an independent, a reformist. What else is out there now? I would have a representative of every point of view, and I guarantee you the sparks would fly. And I mean, just because of the extremists.
Sure.
And but you know what?
Good for ratings.
You know what? That's what it's about. You have to be able to, you know what, especially for liberals, go see one of your favorite fucking movies we're going to talk about. One of theirs is The American President with Michael Douglas.
Yeah.
Right, they go through this whole stupid thing with his girlfriend, and So you know what, at the very end of the movie, he makes a little speech, and it's supposed to be dramatic. It doesn't quite come off very well, but he goes, let me see you stand next to somebody who says something that makes your blood boil. He goes, and then fight for their right to say. He goes, that's what it's about. And he's supposed to be Mr. Democrat in this movie. Go see the speech at the end of the movie that liberals used to believe in. That's why they put it in. It was written by Rob Reiner.
Yeah, what's interesting about that is, and let's end it on these 2 points.
Okay.
One, Larry's absolutely right. Liberals used to be absolutists in free speech. And when we were in our youth, I used to walk around saying, you know, I'm pretty conservative, I'm pretty libertarian, I'm pretty constitutionalist, but the one thing I'll always line up with these liberals on, no matter what else they do, is their free speech. Like, I was pro, like when the Meese Commission came out and all that, I was like, fuck the Meese Commission. Pornography is a form of free speech. As long as nobody's being forced to do it, I don't care if they're shoving baseball bats up their ass repeatedly. I don't care, as long as if they agree to it, okay? And it's the same thing. And Larry mentioned the ACLU. That's a great point. I also want to bring this up. ACLU is actually now like a baby SPLC. They've completely abandoned their mission. And I think it's because, Larry, both the SPLC and the ACLU are not getting donations from the old liberals anymore. They're dying off. Like a couple of friends of mine who are diehard Democratic liberals, but like our age.
Right.
They're more and more agreeing with me as a libertarian. Because, for example, the old ACLU, I was behind. They defended free speech. They defended the Bill of Rights, okay? So they were against the Meese Commission. They were against pat-downs in the airport because there was a...
How about when Bush Sr. was president? After they had that brief period of time. Does anybody remember this? The flag-burning amendments. Yes. Look, I would never burn a flag, period. Not just the flag, it's anybody's. That's such an ignorant, obnoxious, hateful thing to do. But you know what? It's protected speech. You want to burn a flag, burn a fucking flag. You want to wear it as a diaper, wear it as a diaper. You don't put an amendment in the Constitution saying you can't do this.
And for you Republicans that think we're being like liberals here, think about this. Who was the Supreme Court justice who wrote the opinions for both the flag burning and the Larry Flint case? Scalia. The most hardcore right-wing guy on that court said, it's free speech, baby.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. You know, you can't fuck with that. So, and the ACLU, by the way, I think they're seeing the donations go down. Just today I saw them tweet out, do not call trans women anything other than what they are, women. They are against people like me who say trans women are men with mental problems. Okay? And by the way, I have more science backing up my position than the position of I woke up, decided I'm a chick, therefore I'm a chick. Okay?
Also, the ACLU, though, very quickly, I think, I don't know what they're going to write this minute, but right after Trump got elected, they got a huge spike in membership and money.
Right, but I think it's all because...
could be fading.
Well, I think it's also because they got money because by being free speech at that time, they were protecting anti-Trump speech. Right? But now, right now, they're not protecting... Like, if I went to them and said, I have a case where I got fired for referring to a trans woman as a dude, which is his biological gender, they would not probably take my case. Whereas 20 years ago, they would have jumped at it.
Right.
But anyway, Larry, looking at the clock, it looks like we're about out of time. Boy, the time just flies by when you're having fun here at the Riot, Larry.
Yeah.
And not once did I try to grab your balls.
There's still time.
Well, maybe after the show. All right, everyone. Join us again next week when we'll be here. We'll be here for some additional fun here at the Riot and everything else we can come up with. Until then, this has been Big Fat John.
And Judo, Larry,
Peace, bitches. Peace.
Join us every week at theriotshow.com to follow the latest exploits of Big Fat John and Judo Larry M. This is Mark, the man with the golden voice, and I just love Sunday morning Blumpkins.